The mall was alive with a quiet hum of evening shoppers, a sea of people moving from store to store, lost in their own worlds. But near the entrance, tension crackled in the air. The security guard stood firm, blocking the way of a man in a simple black jacket, sunglasses covering his eyes. "Sir, I need you to step back," the guard said, his voice steady but dismissive. The man tilted his head slightly. "And why is that?" The guard shifted uncomfortably. "We have a policy, a certain standard we uphold." "A standard?" The man's voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. "And who decides that?" Before the guard could respond, a voice cut through the tense silence. "Mr. Reeves, I can explain." Keanu Reeves turned his head slightly, the manager of the mall standing pale-faced behind him. The entire space seemed to hold its breath. Keanu lifted his sunglasses. "Not now, but you will explain. Not just to me, but to everyone who has ever been treated this way here." The mall was silent, but the storm was just beginning. The next day, Keanu returned, and this time he wasn't alone. He walked through the entrance without hesitation. The same security guard from the night before stood there, but now he looked nervous. People whispered, customers and employees alike, their phones raised, recording what they knew would be a moment to remember. Keanu stopped in the center of the mall and pulled out his phone. With a few taps, he opened a file. 5,000 reviews, he said, his voice carrying through the atrium. "This mall has a rating of 1.8 stars. And do you know the most common complaint?" The manager, standing nearby, swallowed hard. Keanu read aloud. "The staff treats you like garbage if you don't look rich enough." He scrolled. "I was asked to leave just for browsing." Another one. "Security follows you like a criminal if you don't fit their image." He lowered his phone. "This is your reputation." The security guard shifted on his feet. "I was just doing my job," he muttered. Keanu tilted his head. "Your job?" He let the words hang in the air. "And what exactly is your job?" "Deciding who belongs and who doesn't." The guard clenched his jaw but said nothing. Keanu nodded. "I get it. You thought you were enforcing the rules. But tell me, whose rules?" Silence. Keanu turned to his private security, a man who had been quietly observing. "Call an emergency staff meeting. Every employee, every manager, every security guard. Right now." 20 minutes later, the central atrium was packed. Employees stood shoulder to shoulder, whispering among themselves. Managers looked uneasy, shifting on their feet. Security guards remained rigid, uncertain of what was about to happen. Keanu stood at the front. He spoke simply. "This mall is mine," he said, "but it does not belong to me alone. It belongs to the people who walk through these doors every day." He let the words settle. And for too long, too many of those people have been made to feel like they don't belong. The silence in the room was thick. Then, a voice from the crowd spoke up. "They never look at you if you don't dress a certain way." Another voice. "I asked for help once, and they just ignored me." Keanu turned to the manager. "What are you going to do about it?" The manager hesitated. "I can make adjustments, talk to the staff." "Not good enough." Keanu cut him off. "This is not just a staff issue. It's a culture issue, and culture changes from the top." The manager swallowed. "I'll implement new policies. Mandatory training." Keanu nodded. "Then prove it." Over the next few weeks, changes began to take effect. Keanu made sure to personally oversee the restructuring of management, hiring experts in customer service ethics. Security guards were retrained, and new policies were introduced that focused on inclusivity and respect. But Keanu knew that change had to go beyond this one mall. He reached out to other high-profile figures in the retail industry, pushing for systemic reform in malls and high-end shopping districts across the country. His influence made waves, and soon, major brands began re-evaluating their own hiring and service policies. The public took notice. News outlets covered the story extensively, praising Keanu not just as a celebrity, but as an activist of consumer rights. Social media exploded with support, with thousands sharing their own experiences of discrimination in retail settings. The movement was growing. Then, an unexpected call came in. "Mr. Reeves, I'm calling on behalf of the National Retail Association. We've been following your actions and would like to invite you to speak at our annual summit on retail ethics." Keanu considered the offer. A speech wasn't enough. He wanted action. "I'll attend," he said, "but not just to speak. I want to propose a nationwide reform initiative, mandatory inclusivity training for all retail employees. This isn't just about one mall. This is about changing the industry." The voice on the other end hesitated. "That's ambitious, but if anyone can push for it, it's you." Months later, Keanu stood before a packed auditorium. Executives, store owners, and retail leaders sat in rapt attention. He spoke with conviction, sharing the stories of the countless individuals who had been turned away, ignored, or treated as lesser just because they didn't fit a certain image. "The way we treat people in our stores reflects the way we see society," he said. "We have the power to make every customer feel welcome. Let's make sure we use it the right way." By the time he left the stage, the applause was deafening. His fight had started with one mall. Now, it was a movement that could change the world. Keanu didn't stop there. He started an initiative, funding research into the impact of customer discrimination and launching a new organization dedicated to enforcing fair treatment in retail spaces. His work led to the passage of new regulations that required all major retailers to undergo periodic audits to ensure compliance with inclusivity standards. As months passed, the initiative expanded globally. Countries around the world began adopting similar reforms, inspired by the movement Keanu had championed. Retail giants partnered with advocacy groups, committing to fair treatment and inclusivity training on an international scale. And it wasn't just about policy. Keanu made it personal. He visited malls, spoke with shoppers, and continued to use his platform to highlight stories of those affected. Over time, the movement became bigger than him. One evening, as he walked through the very mall where it had all begun, he saw something that made him smile. A diverse group of people, shopping freely, no security guard eyeing them suspiciously, no nervous glances exchanged. It was a small victory, but it was proof that change was possible. And for Keanu Reeves, that was just the beginning.